Shihan from zirshihan.com. I'm here to talk about my various sessions, the services that I have, and what differentiates these sessions from each other. See, I provide life guidance, channeled information, and what is the value of this? It's really the ability to draw forth enlightened consciousness and to receive from that source recommendations that consider the person not just who they are right now and how they've developed in this lifetime, but their long-term journey as a soul and what all the long-term challenges, difficulties and obstacles that have accumulated over this long-term journey. See, the enlightened beings can see it clearly, and from that perspective they can make very wise and very precise recommendations. So in a session I always start by providing a little bit of an overview. The spiritual being provides a little bit of an overview, basically saying this is most relevant, most important for you to know at this point in your life. We recommend blah 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 blah. So that's usually a general starting point, and every client can come to me with an intention. Maybe they have a theme, something they absolutely want to incorporate in this session. The spiritual beings will always consider that. So let's remember, the enlightened beings, they're the beings that have unconditional love and great wisdom for every human being. They just want the best for us. So useful to have an interaction with such beings. Now, the second element I use in my sessions is the Akashic Records, the field of energy that contains all the information from the past. And I use it in a way to access what is the biggest limitation, the biggest obstacle that is affecting the client, the person right now. And my job, once I explain a little bit about the background, that's what happened. This is how the difficulty was established in the first place. See, the purpose is to provide a conscious understanding for the client so they know, this is what remains in my field, my unconscious field of energy. These are the agreements, the vows, the contracts, the beliefs, the fears that are still affecting me and magnetically drawing to me things that are really not contributing to my life quality. So once that is understood, then there can be a conscious choice to release these things. And of course, always there is a certain period of releasing old energies, whether it's mental negativity, emotional heaviness, things that have been stored by the cells. It's an accelerated purge or release, incredibly useful, so we don't continue to carry these things forward in our life. So that's the basic session. Let me talk a little bit about the other session I do, which is called Heart Union Healing. I call it Heart Union because it provides more wholeness, since I'm addressing masculine and feminine energies within the person that are not contributing to a balanced, holistic, loving experience in the individual's life. So that's usually dynamics that are mirrored back to us in our close relationships with men and women, and really sometimes we get to the point where we may want to pull out our hair if we have any, and say to ourselves, oh my God, I give up on this type of relationship. So, or this relationship is incredibly difficult. Of course, there's layers and layers of such elements. And the most success I've had with this session is if a person books in for a series to really, it's really like clearing the house, clearing it out of the unconscious, all kinds of limitations that have accumulated over a long time period, over multiple lifetimes. So basically that means detoxing centuries worth of paradigms and unconscious behaviors or beliefs or fears or expectations that affect our relationship with men and women. So if you want to improve your relationships in a more radical, in a more accelerated fashion, that's the session I recommend. So specifically for people who want to work on relationship. And again, the person can bring their personal intention to the session. The next type of session is what I call soul path clearing. Soul path clearing is really the Akashic reading plus 30 minutes or 25 minutes of energy healing. And in the energy healing, I use 3 tools that allow me to have maximum effect in that time frame. The first tool that I use is energy transmission, which basically means I expand my energy field. I allow more current to run through me into that person to really energize and clear out some old energies. It's really a boost, a blessing ultimately, where spiritual energy is being transferred to the other person. The second tool I use is crystals, because crystals will magnify or help me to intensify that energy. And the third element I use is sound, because sound is another magnifying tool. It allows the transmission to become more powerful and just maximum juice basically. And up until now I've only done that session live in person. I'm now beginning in 2020 to also offer that online. And how does it work? We should always remember that energy is not bound by space and time. So when I record my voice and I imagine the person in front of me and I'm absolutely focusing on that energy transmission, see, it's that energy can be held in escrow, it can be held on the spiritual dimension. And there's really 2 options. The person can arrange a time with me where they're lying down and they're receiving it right then and there. It's coming through the ethers, or it's held in the ethers and they can just lie down at a certain point and listen to that recording. So either way, to be in a place of stillness and receptivity is very important, because it's not just me providing energy transmission, it's really a group of spiritual beings that are gathering in that time frame to really draw out of the system some of the old energies. And of course, it's incredibly useful to have that straight after a session, whether it's Akashic reading or heart union, because that which the person has agreed to surrender and release, immediately most of it can be pulled out of the energy field. So that's the third type of session. I do 2 more types of session, a business coaching session or consulting session, which basically just means it's channeling, it's questions and answers. The questions of the clients, the recommendations from the spiritual beings. And the spiritual beings don't solve your business problems. They don't say do this or do that. They just provide as much wisdom and clarity as possible so that one can move forward with more understanding, with a slightly more bigger, maybe I should call it a different perspective, or maybe additional information that we wouldn't have received just by analyzing with the mind. So still incredibly useful. And really it just means if the spiritual beings think, oh, this person is struggling in business because of some past life dynamics, then we will talk about that. If that person has the wrong perspective, then we will talk about that. If the person needs to become aware that another person is running a hidden agenda, then we will talk about that. So they're incredibly flexible. They're not going to stick to just one approach or the other. They're always going to move and provide the recommendations so it is most useful, most productive for the individual receiving that input. The last session that I want to talk about, see, I do also couple session. Couple session just means I'm combining the Akashic session. I'm doing it with 2 people at the same time. So it's a bit of a cost saving if there's 2 people and they come at the same time, and maybe we expand it to 90 minutes or 2 hours, then we could say some of the things we're just doing once for both people, and sometimes the spiritual beings address one person, and sometimes the other person, and sometimes both together. It just creates more efficiency. So in the end, if you split the price in 2, it's cheaper. So that's just a cost-saving session, I will call it. And the last session is called Freedom for Your Soul, which I still only offer in person because it's energy healing where I really I prefer to be right there, having a more immediate connection to the physical body, because I'm actually doing a bit of psychic surgery. I'm actually energetically looking into the pathways, the energy pathways. Some people call these nadis, meridians. It's a bit of it's actually multiple levels that I'm working on, but it's much easier for me to focus on these energy pathways and the overall energetic field and what is present there when I'm right there with the person, right? So it's a much more precise session than the healing one I mentioned, because it's specifically geared to pull deep grief and anger out of the system. Anger and grief that may have been inherited from previous generations, or anger and grief that has come through experiences in this lifetime or through multiple lifetimes. So it's a very specific type of healing session, and can bring great relief to people who have blockages in the nervous system, because it addresses really the pain that is stuck in the energy pathways that directly influences the nervous system. So if you have long-term chronic pain, it's probably likely that your soul has some pain on another level, which either is being suppressed or was suppressed in the past, or is simply not being acknowledged, right? So these are the types of sessions. I hope it gives you a quick overview. If you have more questions, feel free to just send me an email, or Zir Shihan, just type in that name on Facebook if that's available to you. Thank you for listening, and hope to hear from you.